Friday edition of PFT Live, the first overall pick in the 2014 draft. Jadeveon Clowney is looking for a new team. As Shereen Williams pointed out yesterday, he finally signs a multi-year contract, not a one-year deal, and he gets cut after 1 year. And it felt like this was coming. Dan Morgan, the GM of the Panthers, was asked about Clowney before the draft, and he gave one of those vague responses that was anything other than, why are you even asking the question? Of course he's going to be here. And then there was a report, there were pre-draft trade discussions involving Clowney, and Clowney spoke about the release after the fact. He told Joseph Person of The Athletic, he kind of got the sense when he showed up for the offseason program, they didn't want him in the building. Now he's gone from the building. He's instantly a free agent. He's played for a bunch of teams. He's 32 years old. He had 5.5 sacks last year for a defense that wasn't very good, and he vows to keep playing.
Good for him. I mean, I think it's fine that he keeps playing. I think, when you're an edge rusher and he plays the run well too at times, there's a market for your services because you can never really have enough pass rushers. So I think that somebody's going to pick him up. I think somebody could certainly pick him up and use him effectively, especially if he's kind of like, a third down specialist. But the funniest thing to me about Clowney is that when you think about him, at least when I think about him, the most iconic play he's ever had is that play that he had in the Outback Bowl against Michigan in it must have been early 2014, or maybe it was 2013 in January, right?
Yes.
Because
2012 season, bowl game to cap the 2012 season, because he still had one more year of college football.
Exactly right. And so I think of Mike Tirico and John Gruden in the booth, and Tirico's screaming, South Carolina should have it, and they do. Because he knocked the crap out of that Michigan player, whoever that was, and he blew his helmet off, and he picked up the fumble, and it was one of the most impressive plays I've ever seen. But does Jadeveon Clowney have a play like that in the NFL, even though he was the number one pick in 2014? No, I don't think so. But that doesn't mean he's had a bad career. Anybody that's still playing, when you're the number one overall pick in 2014, we're about to be in 2025 season here, like that's a solid career by any means. But I don't know. I think that's interesting, that when I think of Jadeveon Clowney, I still think of him in college.
I do too. It was a Rock'em Sock'em Robots moment where you hit the guy just right and the head goes flying off. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Chris Sims brought me around on Jadeveon Clowney because Clowney is the first player where Sims used the phrase F up the play. It doesn't show up in the stat sheet. He doesn't make the tackle. He doesn't get the sack. He doesn't force the fumble. He doesn't intercept the pass. But because he is able to just hot knife his way through butter, it screws up the entire play, and it allows others to swarm to the ball. I don't know that he still has that level of skill, and I think that any team out there right now, you put on the Jadeveon Clowney film from 2025, assign it to some low-level staffer to cut up all the Jadeveon Clowney pass rush plays from 2024, all the run plays, whatever, just 24, and look at everything that he's done last year and ask yourself, is he still capable of creating havoc even if he doesn't finish with a sack or a tackle or a statistic that would otherwise be recorded and officially reported by the Elias Sports Bureau?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And, if you're thinking about, okay, where could Clowney go and be that kind of effective player? The first team that comes to mind that could be competing for a championship is Detroit. Because, again, you can never have enough edge rushers. And I think about Brad Holmes at his press conferences and basically being like, we would love to have an edge rusher that basically just falls off a tree. I'm paraphrasing, but but those guys don't just come up and they're not just available, and there are reasons for that. But I think that if you have Clowney as a pass rushing specialist, a rotational guy, someone where he can get a blow when he needs one, and then when you need him on that third down, and he's opposite Aiden Hutchinson, like that to me sounds like fun if I'm a defensive guy and I'm a Detroit Lions fan.
They traded for Zadarius Smith last year. They did not renew his contract. He's still on the radar screen. They did not even renew it. They tore it up. They didn't want to continue with it, but they're still on the radar screen for him. And now you have to look at Jadeveon Clowney. And maybe he's at the stage of his career where he's a part-time guy. He managed to play in 14 games last year. He's got a long injury history. I remember he had a knee injury, kind of landed awkwardly on the turf at, was it Reliance Stadium at the time? I think it was, in Houston. I think it was early in his rookie year, and he ended up having microfracture surgery, which is always kind of the moment if you're a professional athlete, because even though they've made advances, anytime you're drilling holes in the bone to simulate cartilage via scar tissue, you're really rolling the dice on whether or not the guy's going to have a normal career. It's amazing he's played as long as he has. He still wants to play, and I think he'll get a chance. It's just a question of where's that sweet spot between the money he's going to want and the money that a team is going to offer. And it may be like something with high roster bonuses, per-game roster bonuses, will pay you if you're able to suit up and play, that kind of thing. But he'll get an opportunity, and he could be a difference maker for somebody still at age 32. All right, I'll go with Lions as well. I didn't give my answer, but Lions as well for me. I think we're on the same page with that. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.